Yes, I'm Carol Lankford. I serve on the Tribal Council and represent the Ronan District, and I have served for 28 years and going on my 29th.
And I'm Jennifer Finley. I represent the Polson District. I grew up in Arlee. I was born in Ronan, so I was born and raised on the Flathead Reservation, and I've been on Tribal Council for 6 months. So I'm very new, and it's my first time in any political office.
I think the biggest duty that as a Tribal Council member is to make sure that the government operates in the way, in the fashion, the manner that it should for our membership. And the second responsibility I believe I have is to the membership and making sure that I listen to them and then I follow through on what their needs are and their requests, and then just make sure that the Tribal Council is aware that this is what their needs are and follow through on it.
I feel like my biggest responsibility is making decisions that allow us to continue to exist. Because the reason we exist as a tribe, the reason we have a reservation, that we exist as a people, is because of decisions that people made long before I was born. They thought ahead to future generations, and they really thought about how can we preserve this land to make sure we have a land base? How can we make sure that we still have a membership, that people are still here after we're gone? And I feel like that's the most important thing that I do, and it affects all of the decisions that I make every day. How can I make sure that we continue to exist long after we're gone? Because, I'm on council now, and people know who I am, but 50 years from now, no one's going to know who I am. But I still want the work that I did to endure. I still want our people to exist as a people and our land to exist, that it's our land, and I want people to always know that. So I feel like that's the most important thing that I do, and I think that, like Carol said, I really agree, is listening to people. That's really the most important thing that I do, and responding to people when people need something or they want something, because they're my supervisor. I have a supervisor, and when I'm out in the community, and if I'm out at the lake or if I'm in Walmart or whatever, and people want to engage with me, that's my job, is to engage with them and listen to them.
What motivated me is 28 years ago, prior to that, I served for the Tribal Council as recording secretary, and I've seen a lot of the actions that were taken at that time, and it was all men. And I'm like, this has got to change. There's women that have opinions and thoughts and that don't exist in these council chambers. And so I thought it was time to step up and do it. And I wasn't sure that, I knew I would love it if I had the opportunity, because I love people. And the first time I ran, I didn't win. And it was hard, but it motivated me even more to say, I'm going to do this. And at the time, there was a lot of discussion about, whether a woman could win. And so when I did win, there was 2 other ladies that also won, Rhonda Swaney and Mary Left Hand. And it was just an overwhelming experience to know that women's voice is finally on the council, and that we will be a part of the decision making, which is huge. Sometimes the decisions that the men did make prior to the women getting on I thought was, a little skewed there, here and there. And so I really felt like, wow, this is our opportunity. And it was a wonderful, first 2 years, and the whole time has been actually wonderful. I've had a few downfalls here and there, but overall it's just such an awesome responsibility, and awesome to work for the people, and I'll never forget it. And I did go back and look at the history of Lorena Burgess, and then there was Laura Matt, who I know also served, and got to visit with them. And I don't know, I was really happy to have that opportunity to just see what they went through, and I could tell they were very intelligent women and really were motivated. And I think that's what kind of lit a fire under me. I can do this if I really want to. I just have to work hard at it and not be a mouse in the corner. I need to step up and, put my foot out there and do it for other young women. I was young at the time. What was I, 36 years old, serving, and it was just a great experience.
I think the thing that motivated me the most to run for tribal council is my desire to serve people. And I've just always had this deep desire to make a positive difference in the world in some way. I mean, in college, I volunteered for public radio and answered phones, and I was an English teacher, and I have volunteered all over the state of Montana to teach poetry to kids. Sometimes I got paid, sometimes I didn't get paid. And serving humanity is something that's really important to me, but specifically serving Indian people has always been probably my highest priority in life, aside from taking care of my family and raising my children. I'm not sure why I have that kind of a deep desire to do that, but to serve others, to make a difference. And I just never wanted to be the kind of woman or the kind of Indian who would sit at a table and put my head down for any reason. And I don't think any of us should be that way. I think we should always put our heads up, and we should always advocate for what we believe in. And there have been so many times in my life where I had to stand alone on really important issues, when my kids were being discriminated against by a school district or things like that, and I didn't have anybody who stood beside me, and I thought, I will never be like that. I will never be like that. I will use my life not only just to advocate for myself and my children, but for other people and other people's children who don't know how to do that, or who don't know how powerful they are. And so that was really one of the things that motivated me to do this, is to be an advocate for my people and to use my skills that I have. And I think that's one of the strengths of our tribal council, is that we're 10 people with really different backgrounds. We come from different places on the reservation. Carol's from Hot Springs, I grew up in Arlee, and those are radically different places. And when you grow up in a particular place, it shapes who you are. And I bring all of that to what I bring to the table, and Carol brings all of what her background and what she knows to the table. And those are two very different things, but really essential things. And we all have an expertise in different areas, but my background as a teacher, caring about education, caring about our well-being, that's really what motivated me to do this. Yeah, I would say some of the challenges I've had as a woman leader and just as a woman worker. Women have different judgments. I've had people judge me for being a woman and for working as much as I do and for working as hard as I do, but I think, well, who else is going to take care of my kids? And it's a lot of responsibility, and I think most of our workforce for CSKT is women, and I think most of the women are taking care of kids as single mothers or single grandmothers, and that's a huge responsibility. And so I think that there's not a lot of support for us, for women who work, even in this day and age, and that's a constant struggle, and there's a lot of criticism for that. And I also think that one of my challenges as a woman is just having men who know less than I do act as if they know more than me and talk down to me and mansplain and interrupt me and dismiss me, and having to deal with that. And not necessarily every day, but enough that it's a regular thing.
I believe at times there was, when men thought they knew more, but that's where my voice comes in. That's where I step up, and I need, as a leader, need to voice that. To sit back and expect men to take over, it's good, but it doesn't complete the picture. So a woman needs to step up and say what she needs to say. I seen Jennifer do that in a meeting yesterday. And that's exactly what we do as people. We don't let others take over a situation when we know that they may not advocate properly for children, or may not properly advocate for education, or even humans' needs. When a woman who is nurturing and who is caring I think does that a little bit better. So our 2 cents needs to be in there, and that's where I've always been. I don't look at it as a challenge. I just think it's something that I've been able to overcome, and maybe now as over time I've been able to do that better. I don't look at what they have to say. I listen to what they have to say because it's important, but then of course what I have to say is important also. I don't let anybody feel that I'm second class to them. And I don't know if I ever have on the council, because there was times I know Mickey would say, well, why do you want to know that? Because it's important for me to understand, but it's been done for years. Well, so it's sometimes you need to do, you need to find out the origin of things before you can really understand it and make change in a good way. I think some of the biggest challenge that the tribe is dealing with is for one, the alcohol and drugs, the addiction, mental health, food, a home. Those are some of the biggest challenges for our membership right now. I mean, there are people that work for the government, have homes, and do very well. But then there's the ones that don't. And I am a strong advocate for getting involved, finding out. I belong to the Lake County Drug Court just because I know the Indian people that are sitting in that room. I know they're going to walk in there to that court and say, there's nobody here representing me. Well, I'm here. And I get that feeling that they are comforted by my presence. And same way at the food banks. When they walk up and they see, a lot of faces they don't know, but then they see my face, it's just being a part and making a change that way is getting involved. Same way with the Boys and Girls Club. I just feel like we need to be a part of all of these things that could do so much for our people. I mean, we can educate through these programs, and I don't think we really take the opportunity to do that. I mean, with the drug court, just taking a video of that court going on and taking that into the school systems to show them this is what people are going through, but this is what is actually coming out of there. And there's a lot of positive, and I see in every aspect that I deal with there's good things going on. And I know you probably want me to elaborate, but I don't know if we have 3 hours to video. But the drug court is somebody that usually gets into the system of in trouble with the law. And once they get into that part of it, then they can either be accepted to the drug court, but you don't have to be in trouble with the law to get into drug court. The drug court actually is a court that helps people make changes in their life through coordination with a group of people, maybe AA meetings, self-help meetings, just a lot of things with the court. There's a judge, and right now there's 33 people that are in the actual court itself, and they come in, and every week we meet. And we meet as a group, as a team, and then we go out and meet with the clients of the drug court, and we help them through the weeks. They're drug tested. They go to meetings, self-help meetings. They do community events. They do volunteering, and it seems to, as a community, help them come to a realization that either I need to change this now or I'm not going to be alive. And a lot of those people take that step forward and realize, wow, this can really help me, because there's a lot of people here that love me. And there's a lot of love shown in that court, and that's kind of a change that really, really does happen, and you see it in your eyes. Like, I've seen many people step up that I've heard and have been in the court dockets for years, have changed and turned their lives around. And that's what motivates other people that are coming up to say, I remember when so-and-so, and here you have other people watching them now, and they're also mentoring the younger ones that are getting into the court. And it's just an awesome experience. And we have a new judge now, so I'm really pleased that she's taken on the same motivation as Judge Manley. But to be caring, it's not about jailing people who have issues. It's about making sure that we help them through the process of getting well, getting the treatment they need. A lot of them will start out with treatment when they get into the drug court, and then they come back and they have the tools to offer to the people, to the court, and to the others that are serving there. But just a lot of good people. And we also help with homeless. We help with food, if they need it, and try to do what we can to help them get back into normalcy. And with the women's shelter right over, we have two shelters, a man and a woman's, and there's one right on the tribal grounds here with the complex. And they have the college, they have social services, they have all the services right available at the end of their fingertips, to get involved in and be a part of. And that really helps the system too, because a lot of people don't have transportation or a roof over their head. A lot of times people are in the system, they get into the system, they get a felony, and then they may be referred by the defenders or the prosecutor to go to drug court. But there's some people that just volunteer that feel like, well, if I could get into this drug court, it would help me and mold me to be on a good path. And then there's also people that are coming out of DOC. I had one lady check into the women's shelter that was in DOC, and we don't take people out of DOC, Department of Corrections. And I thought, she's going to be right back into the system if we don't do something. So we got her into the woman's house. But I told her, I said, a requirement of you living here, you need to go to drug court, and you need to be a part of the meetings. And she's been smiling ever since. She's still straight, and it's a good feeling to see she just hugs me every time. Oh, you saved my life. Well, no, you saved your life. You made a choice. Because if she got into that house and didn't go to meetings, well, she'd have to figure it out. But she's doing what she needs to do. And that's the awesome part about it, is people are really, really achieving some positive things and turning their lives around, getting their children back, getting homes. It just makes me want to cry, because it's so, such an awesome feeling.
Well, one of the most significant issues that I really think about a lot is trauma. And I think there is so much trauma in our community, and it's so pervasive. And so, I hear people talk a lot about historical trauma, and I know that's real, that we inherited trauma from our ancestors, and how could we not? And so I think, there's that. And, and then aside from that, I think, okay, if I inherit historical trauma, I also inherit the magic of my ancestors. I also inherit their medicine and their goodness and their beauty and their intelligence and all of the things that allowed them to endure the things they endured. I inherit that too. But on top of the trauma that I've inherited, I have the trauma that I experienced, and I have the ongoing trauma. And I think in our community, there's so much trauma that we have historical trauma from our loss of land. There's so much grief. There's so much loneliness. And we used to have things that brought us together as a people that we no longer have. There's so much isolation. There's so much distrust. There's so many people who never feel heard by anybody. And I think that's something I think about a lot. And I think that so many people literally get crushed by traumas. And it's not just historical trauma. It's having this historical loss that we still feel, because we still see people living on our land. It's not like... Anyway, so there's this historical trauma, and then there's the, trauma of being raised by traumatized people that so many people deal with, the rage, the neglect, the poverty, and all of those things. And then you go into the school system that doesn't like you oftentimes. And then there's so many more traumas there. And so many of our tribal students are discriminated against by their own teachers, and they have teachers who are bullies, and they have instructors and school administrators who treat them like they don't belong there. You are not a good learner. You are not very smart. You are not going to ever become anything. And then they have to deal with that. and then they have to deal with the other community, the other adults in the community. And so I just see too many beautiful people with so much potential getting crushed by layer upon layer upon layer of trauma. And I think if there's one thing I can do in my time on tribal council is to help address the effects of trauma and reduce trauma in my community. And I would love to see our tribe have really aggressive intervention for children dealing with trauma and prevent them from being further traumatized. So they don't want, because when you have unhealed, unaddressed trauma, then that's when you start going into the criminal justice system. That's when you start like thinking about maybe ending your life, or maybe that's when you start doing drugs and hurting your body and hurting yourself. But if you address that trauma and that hurt that you feel, you might not go into any of those things that are so self-destructive, because we want to continue to exist as a people. And if we don't stop trauma and start reducing it now, I don't know where we're going to be in 30 years. I don't want us to be in the same place in regards to trauma. I want us to be in a different place. I want the babies that we have now, I want them to grow up to be happier adults, to not be doomed by trauma. Trauma isn't a death sentence. You can do things to stop it. You can do things to remediate it. And I think that's the most pressing issue that we have, because if you don't address your trauma, you're not going to live up to your potential. And, you know, I think as Native people, we have so much innate intelligence and goodness and strength, because how else could we survive here? And I think that the world is going to depend on us for protecting the land, for our land stewardship. We are the best stewards of the land in the world, and they're going to depend on pieces of our culture to help save the world. I really believe that. But in order for us to make that kind of a difference and to do the kind of work that we need to do, we have to be healthy, we have to be strong. And I think so having really aggressive programs that address trauma, that change families, because that'll change families. That'll change how, when those kids grow up, how they raise their families. They will be able to love their own children differently if they are loved as children. It will cause a positive ripple effect. And I really believe that we need a therapeutic home for children. And so kids who have already been traumatized can get a therapeutic living environment. And I really believe we need a treatment center, a cultural treatment center on the reservation that we control. Because I think we can, I know, we can depend on ourselves to serve our own people. And we just haven't had the best of luck in depending on other people to serve us and help us. But when we help each other, we can depend on each other. And I want to see more things that create community and create connection. Because at one time we trusted each other's dreams. If Carol said, Jennifer, I had a dream about your son and how, you know, I wanted to give you this information because it would help him, there was a time when we would have trusted that without question. And I think we need to, I would love it if we had more things that enabled us to trust each other as people, because I don't know how we're going to survive without that, and I don't know how we're going to survive if we don't get well.
I want to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
The drug court recently had a presentation on historical trauma. And unless you know exactly what that is, or you've been in college and have an understanding, you don't know what that means. And so the presentation that came into drug court was a real aha moment for a lot of people, wondering why do I feel like this? And there were people actually crying in that court after that presentation was done and saying, now I understand. And even the non-Indians in the room, I now understand what Indian people have gone through, the loss of so much and never having that understanding. And it was even that way for me, because I really didn't understand the extent of it until I started thinking of all of these things that were in the presentation. And I never understand what it meant to live in two worlds. I didn't know what, when somebody would say that, I didn't know what that meant. And now I truly understand what that means. And that's all what we need to do as leaders is educate our people about these things. Unless people are it's explained and offered to them, they don't know. You think they know. Oh wow, they're Indian, they should know. No, you can't assume that they know, because they don't. And then when they do learn, they say, wow, now I can understand why my heart hurts, or why I feel so good when I sing those songs, or I'm learning the language. I seen a guy come in the council chambers. Turned his life around, started learning the language, and that's what changed his motivation on everything. His attitude was positive. He was learning the language, and I thought, wow, this could do a lot. And now I hear more and more young people. 2 people at the last rosary I was at stepped up and did the Lord's Prayer. And I'm like, where have you guys been? Well, we've been through the language classes, and here they are today, speaking, saying the prayers, like the old guys used to do, Octave Finley and Francis Stanger. They were right up there, and I'm like, it made my heart feel so warm and so good inside. And I know part of it, but I don't know the whole thing like they do, and it just makes me want to say, get off your tail, learn it, understand it, and know what you're saying, So anyway, I just wanted to add that in there, that, historical trauma is a huge one.
Yeah, and I think that we have to be strong. We have to do what we need to do to be strong, because the land is depending on us. All of these animals are depending on us. And the reason we still have a land base, well, we had to buy it back, and we're still buying it back. But the reason we have a land base is because other people were strong enough to protect it for us. Mm-hmm. And now it's our responsibility to increase that protection, to continue protecting it. And that's hard. We have to fight really hard battles. And we have to walk into meetings where people say ugly, racist things about us, trying to crush our spirits. We have to do that to do our jobs. We have to do that all the time. And you have to have some strength to do that. And I want other people to have that strength to fight the battles they need to fight. Because we're not going to change the world. We're not going to eradicate racism by being well. But what we're going to do is we're going to be able to not be crushed by it. And we're going to be able to do the work that we need to do.